So here we are again. Welcome to the Happy Habits program. This week our focus is on which happy habits we can put in place for producing serotonin. Serotonin being one of the happy hormones that we're going to focus on. The others is dopamine, oxytocin and endorphins that we'll talk about in later weeks. So let's talk a wee bit more about serotonin. So serotonin is a happy hormone. It's a chemical or a neurotransmitter, you might have heard of it as being, that's produced by our body, and it's responsible for so many different things in our body and in our well-being in general. But to narrow it down, what serotonin does for us is that it stabilizes our mood. So any feelings that you might experience of anxiety, of fear, of nervousness, worry, all the feelings that we have on a daily basis, our serotonin is responsible for stabilizing that so that they don't run away with us and we're not becoming too overwhelmed by certain feelings. It is also highly responsible for our happiness. So if we have enough and a lot of serotonin and we're doing things that on purpose activate serotonin, then we're going to experience an increase in our levels of happiness. And sure, couldn't beat it. If you have enough serotonin, you are going to have far better sleep. So the happy habits that we choose to do to produce serotonin in our body are responsible and will impact our mood, our happiness, and our sleep. So just take a wee moment to think about how those things alone will influence the rest of our lives, whether it's how we treat ourselves, what activities we have energy for, or even maybe how we show up in relationships or at work. It has a knock-on effect everywhere. Now, what if we didn't have enough of it? So if we don't have enough of it, then what happens is we're more likely actually to have cravings, and you're talking your sugar cravings, your rubbish kind of food cravings. You're more likely to experience low mood, and actually without enough serotonin, we're more likely to experience anxiety more frequently and more often as well. And maybe we're not even aware of where that's associated or coming from. So we can feel that physical sensation of anxiety without enough serotonin. And then we talked a minute there, or mentioned just a minute ago, about how it impacts your relationships, how it impacts your work, it impacts your learning, because you don't have clarity in your mind. Mentally, you're out of focus, and you might experience more feelings of overwhelm because you cannot get the same feelings of clarity when we don't have enough serotonin. So we're seeing already, although I'm only talking about the few basic impacts that serotonin has for us, that it really has a knock-on effect to all of what we do. So then we want to think about what our focus is today, is how we get it. How do we choose to get it on purpose? So we're always doing things. We're always having thoughts, and we're always having some type of feeling. Maybe we're not always paying attention to everything that's going on, because a lot of the time we're on autopilot. We're just getting by. But everything that we're thinking, feeling, and doing is sending signals to our brain and to other parts of our body, and telling those parts of our body whether or not to produce the right chemicals and the right hormones to improve our mood, to improve our physical well-being, to increase our energy. We inform our brain of what to do by choosing our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. Now, because these things have all become a habit to us, a lot of what we do, although we're doing it for a positive reason, isn't always getting us the signal that we need for the right hormones to be produced. So we want to think about choosing on purpose then, to choose our actions and our thoughts, because together those things will change our feelings. It's sort of difficult to change your feelings as directly, but as a knock-on effect, your thoughts and your actions will influence the way that we feel as well. So, an example, very simple. If I stood in my dog's paw and that's what I did, then the thoughts that I experience are to do with me being a bad person. That was so lousy. I can't believe I did that. He's hurting. All them thoughts can cause me to have feelings of guilt, of sadness, of resentment for myself. Depending on what the thought is, will influence the feeling. And then when all of that is happening, it actually impacts our physical energy too. So if I am believing that I'm bad and that's making me feel guilty and sad and resentment, my energy is impacted and I'm less likely to continue to do positive things then as well. So that cycle, it will continue, but it might continue in the negative cycle. Because what's happening there when it continues in negative cycles is the brain and the body is being told to produce the hormones of cortisol and adrenaline, which are stress hormones. And they're useful for us at times whenever you're being chased by a lion or need to get out of the way of a bus. But they are activated by things that we do and things that we think from the part of our brain that's to do with survival. So what we want to do instead is to undo the kind of release of those stress hormones by on purpose choosing actions and thoughts that tell our bodies to produce serotonin and other happy hormones. But today we're going to look at serotonin itself. And there's one really key way to produce serotonin. So big surprise there. Healthy eating's top of my list, okay? So we can meditate as well. We can spend 10 minutes outdoors. When you're outdoors for 10 minutes, that's when the signal will be sent for serotonin to be produced. And as well, whatever thoughts you're having, again, same thing, send signals to your brain of what hormones to produce based on what is happening for you in your reality. So we know a lot about healthy eating and we know already that it's so good for us. But there's going to be things that make it hard to do. And if you look at that internal cycle of well-being, if you're feeling low, if your feelings are sadness or anxiety or whatever, the action then that we usually take is to try to cheer ourselves up. So we're always intending a positive outcome for ourselves. We don't always achieve it. So if that wee snack and if that wee handy bite becomes something that happens too often, then it actually impacts our gut health. And so what's happening is we're trying to make ourselves feel better by the way that we're eating, but we're not getting the serotonin from the unhealthy foods that we do when we eat the healthy food. So your gut has the biggest, largest responsibility for how much serotonin you have. And serotonin is largely known for our happiness. And again, if we just take a wee minute to see how that cycle then can filter into so much of our well-being and impact the other areas of our lives as well. If what you choose to do is to eat healthy, then it'll be easier to think more positive thoughts and you'll feel better more often. You'll have happy hormones and then that cycle then can continue. And yes, we will chat about things that interrupt that and make it difficult. So what are those things and what prevents us from eating healthy? So to generalize, I could just say life in general is a lot of the reason why we don't eat healthy all the time. And again, I'm not looking to eat healthy all the time. None of us do that. That's not realistic. But what we want to do is make sure our gut is healthy. So by eating healthy enough of the time, we can have good gut health and therefore get as much of that serotonin activated as we possibly can. So why then do we not do it? What influences are there? I can't get into all of them, but I will say generally that when something happens, which could be anything, something happening, could be a phone dying, it could be a charger breaking, it could be burning the dinner. That stuff that happens, we have an automatic thought about the things that happen to us. The thoughts that we have are really important because they're actually trying to protect us. And the first automatic thought that we have is always or almost always coming from a place of survival, the part of our brain that's concerned with survival, not always the part of our brain that's to do with being rational and focusing on what's actually happening. So remember, the first thoughts that we have, they have a positive intention for us, and just be curious about what the positive intention is, because the thought then is responsible for how we feel. So it's not actually what happens that causes the way we feel, it's what we think about what happened that causes our feelings. And then the way that we act and behave is based off of how we're feeling. So because each one influences the other, what we can do is choose actions that make feelings and thoughts more positive and then thoughts easier to have that are positive. But generally speaking, this is the order that it goes. So let's look at some of the triggers that might influence whether or not we eat healthy. So we had a few examples there, but I'm going to go with the example of my jeans don't fit because that is kind of relevant for me recently. So the thing is that my jeans didn't fit. And then after something happens, we have an automatic thought about it. It's a protective thought, it's a survival thought. It doesn't always get me what I want. It's not always very nice seeming, but it has a positive intention. So I'm fat is a thought that I have. And what's important is that this will influence how I feel because I believe my own thoughts. And if you tell me that I'm not fat on the day that I believe that I am, I'm still going to hold on to my own belief, which is why we're going to look at how we challenge and change our own automatic thoughts. Because this thought is going to try its best to help me to get a positive outcome. But because of this thought impacting the way that I feel, the actions that I'll take afterwards aren't always going to be positive, and therefore I don't really get the outcome that I want, which means I'm not always activating the serotonin for the happiness, which means I'm less likely to have a positive cycle of well-being. So let's look at it. In my example there, I said that if I believe that I'm fat, that's going to make me feel sad and hurt. And what'll happen is I overeat. Now, everybody's action is different. We're all individual in this. But what happens for me typically is I'll say something to myself like, sure, I'm fat anyway. And then I'll go ahead and eat the tub of ice cream. Okay? So the belief that I have for that thought is influencing my action. And like I've said, then the action of overeating too much sugary foods, and a wee bit more than comfort eating, a bit of overindulgence, is then impacting my gut health. And whenever I'm doing that, I can't produce the serotonin that I need. And so it all goes round in the cycle. I'm moody, I'm crabby, my sleep isn't as good as it could be, all the things that we've mentioned already. So I want to change this thought because this thought is influencing the fact that I'm not eating healthy. Sometimes I have thoughts like this and it does help me to diet, but usually it's a crash course. Usually it's quite restrictive and it doesn't last long. So if I want long lasting impact and effects, what I want to do is I want to be more kind to the way I speak to myself. I want to have more positive self-talk, and then that makes it so much easier to have a long-term habit of healthy eating. So how then I change the thought is by asking the thought these questions. So getting to question the thought. Now we can do this with so many different triggers and thoughts and feelings. And I would encourage you to practice this technique as much as you can. I'm only using this one for practice purposes. But I believe my thought that I'm fat. It's really significant to realise that we believe our own thoughts, but our own thoughts aren't always true. 9 times out of 10, they're not the truth. And because they come from that place of survival, then what's happening is they're usually thinking worst case scenario. How do I make sure worst case scenario doesn't happen? So if I got curious about the positive intention behind that thought and consider the survival part of my brain is probably the part that sent me this thought anyway, what I would find is that I've been taught over the years that fat can mean unhealthy sometimes, and I'm not saying that it does. I'm just saying that perhaps my brain has considered that it does, and that unhealthy might cause illness because there's some information out there about that. So then my survival would be impacted by that. So that part of the brain is trying to alert me that something needs to change if I'm fat. But because that thought causes me feelings of negativity, then my actions will be negative if I don't change it. So first I want to say to my thought, and I am a promoter of talking to yourself now, is that I thank it for being there and I see its positive intention, because then it won't keep trying to prove to me that it's right, because your thoughts do that. So I want to consider what else is possible, and also whether or not this thought is actually a fact, and all the other questions that you can see there as well. So 9 times out of 10, the thoughts aren't the truth. And if we're more realistic and we take a minute with our rational brain to consider, if I put on weight, does that mean I'm fat? And also does jeans not fitting actually mean I'm fat, or have I just learned that by the information that my brain has been exposed to through social media and magazines and the mannequins used to dress, or that are dressed in shopping centres and things? Maybe my brain has just tried to make that meaning out of something. Our brains are always going to try to make everything mean something, but nothing actually really means anything except the meaning we give to it. So my jeans not fitting doesn't have to mean I'm fat. And we'll see in the next slides a few examples of some other alternative thoughts that we might have. So as you can likely see then, or when we have a new thought, what happens is our brain gets told that we feel differently, and then we know, our brains know to produce serotonin, and that makes us obviously feel happy, feel energetic, do all of that. And with that, we might feel more confident. With the new positive thoughts about ourselves, we might feel more content. And generally, that'll lead back into actions of healthy habits. But 9 times out of 10, our thoughts aren't true. What about that one occasion when a thought that we have is true? Now, there was an occasion, or a time in my life rather, when I was considered fat according to BMI. I'll not get into the arguments about the rationale for BMI, but let's say then that meant that if this was that occasion that my thought actually was true, I'm fat, then I feel sad and hurt. So how do I change that thought to make me feel better and act better? Well, if my thought was true, what can I do to cope with the situation? Again, what's the positive intention? What am I hoping to gain by thinking this way? And how can I get that outcome in a new and positive way? And also, I'm thinking, is the worst case scenario really happening here? Am I really unhealthy? Am I really bad? When I said there about BMI is not always considered accurate, but also, what am I making this mean? What am I making it mean if I'm fat? What has society told me? What has my brain learned? Well, it might have led to more thoughts of I can't go there because of my size, I can't do that, I can't wear this. Okay, it can filter to a lot of things. But I want to change the narrative to fat doesn't mean bad. My body shape's different from other people's. What am I overlooking right now is one of the questions we have. What am I overlooking? This is just the shape my body is. The BMI was based on something that was made in like the 1800s or something. There has never been anything new. Again, it doesn't factor in culture and many other things. Um, it doesn't mean that I'm bad. It doesn't mean that I'm unworthy. It doesn't mean that I don't deserve kindness and happiness. And when I recognize those things, that okay, maybe I can be described in a truthful way as what might be called fat right now, that doesn't have to have bad meanings attached to it. We are all individual. We all have different body shapes and for different reasons at different times. Why is this happening for me right now? So what has been going on for me that has changed my body at this time? Well, actually, I recognize that I'm still doing my best and I'm doing everything I can for X, Y, and Z. And this is a knock-on impact of that. Maybe it's because of my health. Maybe it's because I've carried a baby. And does that mean that this is bad? Does that mean that this is negative? Does that mean anything about my worth? Well, no, actually, I can be really impressed because I'm not thinking about how magnificent my body is when I'm just focusing on fat. So when I change that narrative that my body is amazing, my body's always working hard for me, my body's always doing everything that I need it to do. And when I think that way about my body instead, whether I'm actually fat or not, then I'm more likely to be kind to my body again as well, which means that I'll be healthy, which means that I don't have to worry about surviving, which means that I'll have more kind thoughts more often and feel better and show up differently and more confident and be more content with myself as well. And again, the happy thoughts produce the serotonin. So when we're trying to put a new habit into place, what we want to do is try to make it as easy as you can. That's what I do with everything I try to put into place. Make it as easy as you can. So fill a water bottle with a screw top and keep that beside your bed so that when you wake up in the morning, the first thing that's there is water. That makes it easier to continue to drink more water all day, and it cleanses everything out of you first thing in the morning. So that helps your gut health too. Plan your meals, prepare everything, write down what you want to have. Remember the restaurant you went to that had like the really nice Caesar salad. Think about whether or not you can have that for yourself. What foods do you enjoy? Just anything you can think of to make things easier. Prepare everything on a Sunday. Chop all your veg one day. Have it all ready. It takes time, but soon this will become a new habit that becomes subconscious to you. But first we have to choose to do it on purpose before it becomes natural. In the same way that we did when we learned to drive. We had to think about it all first before it became something that we do without a thought anymore. It's automatic to us now. So that's all the things that you can choose to do. Well, a lot of them. Another thing that we can do here together for serotonin is to practice meditation or mindfulness. So let's think about practicing mindfulness together. I'm just turning my music down just a wee bit. And just start to relax under your chair. Now, I like to have aromatherapy balms nearby as an easy, happy habit to focus on my deep breathing. Because when we inhale through the nose and breathe out through the mouth only 3 times, that sends a signal to our brain that we're safe, which again tells us and tells our brain to stop producing the stress hormones because we don't need them all the time. So I like the aromatherapy balms as a prompt to do that. So a nice big deep breath in and when you're comfortable you can begin to close your eyes. And another big deep breath in and out. Relaxing everything under your chair. And another big deep breath in and out. Take a moment to notice how much your body has relaxed since taking these breaths. Promise to yourself now and to your body that you will try to practice deep breathing more consciously, more often. Three deep breaths in one sitting is all it takes for my brain to know that I am safe. Let's just notice how safe we are now in this moment. Sitting in your chair, allow your body to relax deeper and deeper into your chair. Feel how your chair fully supports your body weight. Feel the strength of your chair and how capable it is of holding you safely here in this moment. There is nowhere I need to be and nothing I need to do but relax. Here in this chair, I give myself permission to relax. Pay attention to the top of your head, your forehead, relaxing more and more so we decrease our eyebrows. Let our eyes relax. Relax your jaw. Notice how much more content you become as your body begins to relax. Your neck is no longer stiff or tight. Your shoulders lower and feel supported by the chair beneath you and on your back. You are relaxed. I am relaxed. All tension leaves my chest and my upper back as I breathe out. I notice my upper arms, forearms, hands, all relaxing with my breath. I'm aware of my tummy, how it is free now from the knots and worries of the day, how it is content and relaxed here, allowing me to breathe deeply in through the nose, filling it with as much air as I can before gently exhaling. My middle and lower back are relaxed with the support of the chair, knowing that I am safe here to surrender to this moment. I notice all tension expelling from my legs as my thighs and knees and calves, right under my ankles and feet, relax deeper and deeper. From head to toe, my body is now relaxed. My body is worthy of rest. Rest is just as important as productivity. I am worthy of rest. I am grateful to my body for all that it does. Thank you. I am grateful to my body for all that it does for me. My body is worthy of rest. Rest allows my body to continue performing every day by cleansing, by reproducing new cells, by helping me be active, to feed myself, to help others, to do my work. All this is possible thanks to my body. I choose to give my body nutritious food and enough rest. I have gratitude for my body. Now let that gratitude fill you up. With every inhale, imagine a bright white light of gratitude falling from the top of your head down through your eyes, into your face and mouth, through your neck, into your shoulders. With each inhale, the bright white light of gratitude continues to fill your arms, your chest, your back. Your stomach is now filled with the white light of gratitude as it moves down your legs, from your thighs into your calves and through into your feet, expelling any negative energy and filling you up with gratitude and love for yourself and your body. With another deep breath, we bring our hands to your heart, and we notice that the white light now becomes the size of a ball that we store here in our heart. As our heart is filled with the white light of gratitude and love, our heart pumps this light through our whole body, filling every particle of our being with love and gratitude for ourselves. We remember we can access this white light at any time by touching our heart and breathing deeply. Now I place my palms of my hands on my eyes. I begin to remember the room that I'm in, paying attention to what I can feel, remembering where I was, the colours of the wall with my eyes closed, what chair I'm on, and begin to remember the place that I was. I bring my palms together and rub, generating heat, love and warmth for myself. I begin to wiggle my fingers and toes as I gently blink open my eyes and begin to notice how I now feel. Thank you very much. I hope that this has been beneficial and I look forward to seeing you again. Take care.